1 point with Arnold Gamboa. 1 point with Arnold Gamboa. 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
Good evening, 1 Point fam, and welcome to 1 Point. If this is your first time here in this channel, this is Arnold Gamboa. And just for the record, this is Arnold Gamboa, the common person, the common tao. Not the Arnold Gamboa na artista. Kasi po hanggang ngayon, just a quick, a quick, how do you call this? Segue. Kasi last week, babasahin ko sa inyo ha. Teka, tignan natin kung pwede ko ba itong ipakita sa... Hindi, wag na lang. This is sa mga YouTube posts ko, YouTube videos ko. May nag-comment. Sabi nung comment, alam mo, hanggang ngayon, idol pa rin kita. Lagi ko pinapakinggan lahat ng songs mo, lalo na yung Habang May Buhay. Pinaka-paborito ko lahat na kanta mo. Noong pong 1975, pinanganak po ako ng aking nanay. At tong time na yon ay sikat na sikat po ang isang artista na pangalan ay Arnold Gamboa. At dahil po siya ay sikat nung time na yon at kaapido ko naman siya, what my mom did was to, according to stories, according to what she told me, I was named after him. So after a few I think 10 years ago, in fact, with the guest that we're going to have today, I finally met this guy, this famous actor, and he's really a nice guy, nice person. He's now working in one of the top hotels here in Makati. But again, for the record, I'm not the Arnold Gamboa ng apat na sikat. This is Arnold Gamboa, the common tao, the common person on the internet. But hopefully, I'll be able to serve you tonight. Hopefully, we'll be having a great conversation this evening, because this is, again, 1 Point, a conversation about faith, hope, and love. And we are doing this for the benefit of every one of us who are undergoing through a lot of things, a lot of challenges in life. We want to provide hope. We want to provide an understanding of our faith. So we're talking about our faith once in a while. And today we have a very wonderful discussion today about hope, about something that will provide hope in the times of uncertainties, or in the times of troubles nowadays during the pandemic. And we are going to be talking about some life lessons this evening. But before we do that, ito muna.
1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
I promised a few weeks ago na during the time, nung meron tayong time na ginagawa na challenge sa ginagawa. Ang challenge natin yung tinatawag natin na Road to 1,000 Challenge. No, ito yung nasa screen natin. Road to 1,000 Challenge. And itong challenge natin, sabi ko, when we reach the challenge, or when you reach 1,000 sa ating subscriber account, we're going to raffle off, for the sake of fun, we're going to raffle off 1,000 pesos worth of Lazada gift certificates. Diba? Yun yung yun yung ating challenge. And we're going to do that, but not tonight. No, not tonight, because we have a very special guest tonight. Baka mahaba itong magiging discussion natin, and we're going to be very interesting. But as I promised you, we are going to have that. Kasi last week, we already achieved yung ating 1,000 subscriber count. Yay! Yay! And thank you very much for those who promoted the site. Thank you very much to my mom who promoted this to her Zumba classmates, and to some of my relatives who actively promoted this. Alam niyo naman na sinasabi ko palagi dito, and explain ko din sa nanay ko, and explain ko rin to na the reason why we're trying to promote this this channel is really not to monetize it. There's really nothing wrong with monetizing the channel, just like any other YouTubers. But I'm not monetizing this for the sake of, monetizing it. That's not my ultimate goal. My goal really is just for us to be able to share the message of hope to more people. So a lot of people are, around here in YouTube that are still not familiar with our channel. So my hope is that by liking it, by subscribing to our channel, we'll be able to hack on. Ito yung sabi namin na hack on the YouTube algorithm, no? So that the YouTube algorithm will eventually share this video to others who are not yet familiar with our YouTube channel. So gusto ko rin na magkaroon tayo ng subscriber base na malaki-laki para maraming magpo-promote nitong videos natin sa YouTube. So thank you guys for promoting this. Again, next week we're going to have some fun. We're going to raffle off our YouTube our 1,000 pesos worth of Lazada gift certificates.
1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
Before we get started with our main topic tonight, let me just mention yung mga nandito sa ating channel ngayon. Again, if you are just new here sa ating channel, make sure that you like and you subscribe, and it will help us promote the channel to others who are still not subscribed to our channel to 1 point. Let me just give a shout out. Of course, si Ate Ruth, palagi nandito yan sa atin eh. Si Ate Ruth. Again, if you are not, if this is your first time here, I'd like you to just give a comment or send a reaction through our comment box so that I can give you a shout out. All right. So, yes, Ate Ruth, thank you for joining. Of course, my mom is here, Melissa Gamboa, always with us. Thank you for joining me. I don't know if my daughter Arwen is still here or or playing with the computer now. Gusto niya lang mag-present lang yan. Gusto mag-present. So, thank you, Arwen, for joining. Oliver is also here with us today, always joining us while working. Oliver is listening in. Thank you, Oliver, for joining. Sabi ni Oliver, I like the shirt. Mga Lazada t-shirt lang yan, Oliver. Lazada t-shirt lang yan. Siguro ito yung maganda nating i-raffle off, no, na sa ating 1,000 subscriber celebration next week. Okay. Si Ate Ruth, of course, nandito rin. Si Julina is here. Nasaan si, tawagin natin si Gerald para kumpleto tayo. Alright. So, si Boss G Vlog, I'm not sure who this is, but if you can let me know your actual name, I can mention it. Thank you for joining tonight. Happy 1,000 K subscriber daw. Yan. Yung mga milestone natin, kahit maliliit na milestone, very interesting. So, thank you for joining. And if you, again, let me know in the comment box so that we will have a good conversation tonight. And I can give a quick shout out sa inyo all throughout the whole time that we are going to be having tonight during our broadcast.
1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
All right, 1 point, fam. We are going to start our main topic in a while. But before we do so, I'd like to remind you with 3 things. Number 1, this is not a church service. This is not an online church service. Hindi ito alternative sa ating church service. And with that being said, this means that this is number 2, a conversation. Meaning, we need to have some kind of conversation. It's not just me talking to you tonight, no? Although majority of the times you're going to be hearing from me, but I'd like you also to share some inputs. I'd like to hear from you. If you have some questions, if you have some thoughts in your minds about the topic that will be being discussed, i-type nyo lang doon sa ating comments and reactions box, and hopefully I'll be able to answer that during the breaks, during the segments that we were going to have later on. And then lastly, number 3, if you have not liked or you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, please do so, because it's a way for us to make sure that the YouTube algorithm knows that what we're doing here is something valuable, and that our friends, those who are not yet familiar with our content, will be able to see, or will have a chance to see our content, because you are part of this 1 Point Fam. I want you to be part of our mission to provide hope. We're going to start in a while, so make sure that you like and subscribe.
One point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.
We are currently in the crisis right now, and this crisis has taken a toll on every one of us. Lahat, walang exempted dito sa nangyayari sa atin lahat. And this is a worldwide event, worldwide phenomenon that's going on, and most especially here in the Philippines, we are experiencing ang dami daw na nangyayari. Ang daming nadidepress, ang daming nakakaroon ng emotional breakdowns, and that's understandable because of what's going on around us. But the thing is that, as what Rick Warren said, one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite pastors, he said, you do not have to waste a hurt. Hindi pwede natin gamitin yung mga nangyayari sa buhay natin para magamit natin on a positive note. And that is what we're going to try to do tonight. This pandemic, this thing that's happening all over the world, this thing that has affected our lives for more than a year now, we should not waste this. We don't want this to be happening, and we don't want to continue this to be happening in our lives. But it is here right now. So what we can do at the very least is to learn from this pandemic. So tonight we're going to talk about some life lessons that we have already learned for the past 15 months or 14 months. And what we can still learn from this pandemic. This some life lessons that we can learn from this pandemic. And tonight, I have a very, 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 very special guest. One of my favorite people in the world. One of he's definitely younger than myself, than me. But he is, even if he's younger, he is wiser than his age. Definitely wiser than his age. I'm a great fan of this guy. I love what he's doing. I love his charity work. I love what he's doing with his company, and I'm a big fan of his. I try to learn from him once in a while, and in fact, the topic that we're going to talk about tonight is one of those learnings that I've learned from him in the past week. After reading a post, and I'm going to introduce this later on, but this person I'm going to be interviewing today, the person that will share his wisdom to us tonight, is none other than my very good friend Josh Mahinay. Yeah, Josh.
Hello, magandang hapon sa lahat. I think sobrang tawag dito, yung introduction mo about me, nakaka-pressure, but I would like to believe that it's the other way around. I've been learning a lot from you since we got friends back in 2004, and it's been a pleasure to be your friend, and thank you so much for having me, inviting me here. I'm excited to have this casual conversation with you, and hopefully we can share some good insights to all who are listening right now and watching right now via YouTube. So magandang hapon, and I can't wait to get started, have this sharing with you.
No, thank you very much. This is our privilege, and of course, those of us who are watching this on live or maybe sa yung mga nagre-replay lang, we hope that we will be able to minister with you or we will be able to inspire you. Because this guy that I'm going to be interviewing today, I can guarantee you that this is someone who can inspire all of us. And sometimes, sabi ko nga palagi I'm not an inspirational speaker. That's not my gift. That's not who I am. I can tell you facts, but I'm not an inspirational speaker. That's why I need some people who can inspire us, like this person that we're going to be speaking with today. This guy can inspire us this evening. And so, introduce ko na right away yung ating discussion kasi it's going to be longer than usual, but at the same time, I hope that it's going to be an inspiring one. And I'm sure that it's going to be an inspiring one. We are, in fact, itong one time, mali yung ano ko tanggalin muna natin. Okay, so last week, nagkaroon ng, so I was talking with Josh last week, and sabi ko, Josh, I'm going to invite you sana. I'm going to invite you to our to my 1 Point broadcast on Saturdays. Let's talk about generosity. Kasi Josh, if for some of you do not know, Josh is so active with some charity work, no? And yung Be a Giver, we don't have time to talk about some of the things that Josh is working on kasi iba yung topic natin today. But Josh is also very much active with Be a Giver. It's a foundation slash how do you call that, Josh?
It's a social enterprise.
Social entrepreneur, social enterprise, yes. That he's also heading. But sabi ko sa kanya, let's talk about generosity. But last week, he introduced to us through his Facebook post something that is thought provoking. Ito yon. I'm going to eventually later on I'm going to have this posted. I'm going to post a link dito sa ating YouTube broadcast so that you can go check yourself out about this very thought-provoking lesson. Sabi niya dito, this post is something that when you read, you can learn a lot from, no? Tungkol dito sa nangyayari sa atin sa pandemic. And so I thought, Josh, sabi ko sa kanya, ito na lang pag-usapan natin. Ito na lang pag-usapan natin. And let's title this conversation, sabihin natin na this is going to be a pandemic life lesson conversation. Because you know what? The reality is that we really can learn a lot from this pandemic. And a lot of us, we are undergoing through a lot of storms in life. Yun ang reality nito eh. Marami tayong pinagdadaanan. And dati, magkakaroon tayo ng storm, sa relational storm, or magkakaroon tayo ng financial storm. Pero ngayon parang sabay-sabay dahil lahat tayo sabay-sabay dahil all of us are undergoing through a similar journey because of the pandemic. Ikaw, Josh, 1 year after the pandemic, we were into our 13th, 14th month sa pandemic, and you are ahead of a company. You also have your personal, problems siguro. But have you, during this past few months, past year, have you underwent through, or even probably you are still undergoing through some storms in life right now?
Yeah, I think it's to start. I think it is true to a lot of people that there were times, probably that we wake up in the middle of the night and you sit and pause or just gaze outside and think and wonder, what is the future going to be like for me personally or for my business if you are an entrepreneur or the health of my family. I think that it is, kumbaga, it's right to assume that a lot of us, most of us, are going through that or went through that in the past year. And I remember back in March 2020, 2 weeks after the announcement of the first community quarantine or the lockdown, it was almost 2 weeks when there was total lack of direction just really
Mhm.
observing and feeling the situation. So I remember telling my team na, okay,
Ang
umuwi
gulo
muna
na nun, no?
kayo.
Ang gulo
Yeah,
ng
yeah,
time na yun.
just to make sure that their families are safe and they're safe, and really just feeling the situation because it was very chaotic. So I would say that that kind of caught us really unaware, or maybe caught us in a shocking way. But yeah, definitely. So if you ask me, am I in the same spot right now? I would say that I'm not. And from that spot of confusion to where I am right now, or same with a lot of people, it was a long process, and we can talk
Yeah.
about that long process later. But yeah, definitely, it's safe to say, and it's transparent for me to say that just like any other people, I went through the process also of, confusion, of uncertainties, and anxiety, so to speak, during that time last year.
Totoo yan, ha. In fact, I'd say to some degrees, to some degree, almost every one of us, whether you are employed or not, or whether you are just a family man, or a house maker, no? Kahit sino tayo diyan, lahat tayo kahit papaano nadaanan natin 'tong mga
Tama.
bagay-bagay na to during the pandemic, no? Let's go through some of the very interesting thoughts that you shared with us doon sa Facebook post na ginawa mo last week. Again, I'm going to have this link or Facebook post link later on para for your reference, for those of you who are watching right now live or on replay. I'm going to post that later on. But here's one of the thoughts that you shared with us. Sabi mo, it can break you or it can be a breakthrough. It can
Yeah,
break you
yeah,
or it
yeah.
can be a breakthrough. During this pandemic ba, was there a time that you were in the, where
The breaking
there's
point.
the breaking point? Was there a breaking point that you have experienced during this pandemic?
Yeah, I wouldn't say breaking point, but I think it is on that direction. And I think that just like what I mentioned, it is similar to a lot of people. Know when you are, uh, just a little background. Before 2020, 2019, I graduated from my master's degree in entrepreneurship, and after graduation, I was totally set to for the next steps in my personal career, in my business, and I have my 3 to 5 year plan in place. But and all of a sudden,
Bigla
boom!
nasira lahat in 3 to
Bigla
5
nasira
years
ka, and then
plan.
yeah, everything is not making sense. So I would say that just like everybody else, it was heading to that direction. But it is very important as well that, for me personally, that you recognize the emotions and the reality that we are in. I think that's step number one. And I've talked to a lot of people who are, going deep into what they're going through. And I think that because there was some sort of, not acknowledging the situation, or probably just being quote unquote optimistic in a way that people are not responding with flexibility or responding with clear action plans, considering the current situation. So from that journey, or from that challenge to becoming a breakthrough, I think that because kuya, lahat tayo, we have different privileges in life, right? So yung journey natin into adapting or maybe coping with the pandemic in the past year is also different. So, but I think that the principle is the same. When we are faced with challenges or uncertainties, it is very, very parang common for us to be clouded with a lot of thoughts, and we make
Mhm.
randomly determined decisions in our lives, and
Mhm.
and that could break you. We've seen people broken in so many ways in different circumstances all throughout the last year. And we can I can talk about some of my friends, some of my workers who've gone through the process. But that's why it requires more than just like it requires more than just the ability to recognize, but turning that possible breakdown to breakthrough is a lot of things in your life and in your past, and a lot of things that you have probably developed long before the pandemic. And
Yeah.
one of those things, kuya, in that process is number one. I mentioned earlier about recognizing the emotions and the reality of things. Ito yung nahirapan tayong lahat talaga dito, na parang we tend to kind of like put a facade on what's really happening, or not embracing the emotion. So if you are anxious, if you are confused, if you feel you are sad or challenged, the number one to kind of overcome or cope those emotions is to recognize that they are real and they're present. And that's number
True.
one that I probably did at the beginning when I experienced these things. Number two,
Which
people
means
are,
Josh,
yes,
it's okay. It's okay to
yes,
feel
yes,
sad, depressed, kasi it will make you realize what's going on really.
yes,
No?
yes.
You have to realize that as a for kahit na sabihin natin naghihirap talaga tayo to
Yeah.
recognize that, but you have to recognize what's going on inside of you. That's the first step, di ba?
Yeah, and most especially Kuya, because you mentioned that I'm leading my company, I'm a leader in the community. So the assumption would always be like you are a strong person. But of course, hindi
Yeah.
naman kailangan na you have to like wash your kumbaga, wash your laundry on social media. I think what I mean
Mhm.
is that you have to recognize these emotions and be able to process it either yourself or the people that you trust in your life. And I think that is very important. Number two
Mhm.
is I've seen a lot of people on social media, especially about being so optimistic about the situation. So meron tayong mga nakikita last year na when the pandemic struck and people were posting about positive things. And my view on that one is actually different. When I look at the pandemic in 2020, I was more of a pessimist person than an optimistic person. And I think there's a difference because when you are a pessimist or if you are pessimistic about the situation, you actually feel this kind of fear that the situation is not going to get better anytime soon, and that will cause you and make you to assess your situation, and then also plot your course of action. Now, before you can be optimistic, you have to go through the process of pessimism as well. So I think those are
Yeah.
a couple of things that I learned from the last year.
Yeah, Josh, meron kasi tayo tinatawag din na
Toxic
toxic
positivity.
positivity eh. Oh,
Yeah,
yung
yeah,
okay lang 'yan. Oh, kaya natin 'to. Pero alam mo naman, di naman natin kaya na gano'n, di ba? You have to assess the situation first to see if you really can do it, or to have to be able to do something. Hindi lang puro positive things. And
yeah,
again, I don't think there's it's really wrong to be positive. In its core, it's really not wrong to be positive, but we have what we call toxic positivity. And that's why I like what you mentioned, na nag-umpisa ka muna sa pagiging pessimist, pero at the same time, you're able to overcome that by assessing everything first,
yeah,
with your pessimism. But again, you're able to overcome those situations by being able to understand what's going on. Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
I agree.
Ganda
And
nun. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
and I think that so from pessimism, you assess your situation and then you weigh your option and explore possibilities considering your situation and what are your available resources around. And then if you have that clear course of action plan already, then that's the time that you can be optimistic. You cannot be optimistic with just nothing. You have to be pessimistic and then assess, plot a course of action, and then you can be optimistic with a clear plan that you have in mind already. And now the rest will be up to God.
That's true. Do what we normally say this, no? Do what you can do and let God do what only He can do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yun
I
yung
agree. That is
normally
right.
sinasabi ko dyan. Do what you can do and let God do what only He can do. Alright. Meron kang sinabi rin dito, ang ganda nito sinabi mo, Josh. Your core will see you through. Your core will see you through. How does your personal values help you go through this pandemic, Josh? Maraming bagay na nangyayari, pero you always go back to your core, sabi nyo. How does
Yeah,
your
yeah.
personal values help you go through this pandemic?
Yeah. Kaya I personally believe though that with this crisis and even with future crisis that we will face in our lives, it is very important yung journey natin. Like, way our way back before the crisis or the pandemic is happening. Because again, I mentioned earlier that when things get messed up or when things get mixed up and there's challenges and it's confusing you, you are most likely to make bad decisions and act in a way that is deterrent to your life or people around you. And then so you ask yourself, so how do I what is my core? How do I go back to what's important to me? Kaya if you are familiar with the word ikigai, that means that's the purpose of being. So for example,
Mm-hmm.
in my case, I'll give you a very clear example about learning who you are and your identity. So during the pandemic, of course, we as an entrepreneur, you will have this, you have to wrestle against yourself about the idea of, do I close my company and do I look like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a failure because I closed my company, or do I stop doing these things? No, so of course that's the human tendency, na parang we have to battle these thoughts. But if you know your core and you know who you are and who God tells you who you are, that is
Mm-hmm.
not going to be a big problem to you. And then, for example, you know your why, and you know what moves you, what motivates you.
Your
Is it
purpose in
money?
life.
Is it profit? So
Mm-hmm.
when I think about, like, okay, last year I made this much money, and this year I'm totally just over the red. Like, how do I assess my situation and actually appreciate and value the things that I have right now? So if money or profit is going to be your motivation, it's going to be a big of a trouble for you, because you are used to making millions, for example, and now you are barely making it every month with your expenses, right? So
That's
knowing
true.
your why and what motivates you and what moves you is very important. That's going back to your core. So for
That's true.
example, do I retrench my employee because the clients are pulling out their activities with us, or do I work with the clients in a way that I will help them more even if they're not giving me additional value? So these things are very important, because when you are faced with these kind of challenges, you have to go back to your core. And this core, like what I mentioned, is not just coming out of the blue. These are the things that you learned from the past. These are the things that you believe that your parents taught you, or your faith kind of like taught you how to think, how
Yeah.
to act, and how to believe in things. So I think that's what I meant. That's what I meant. And true enough, if I may, if you have a good relationship with God, if you have strong faith, and you know your purpose of being, of course you will still be challenged and you will still be suffering. But I think that your ability to cope and overcome this will be a lot easier, because you have a strong foundation to go back to.
Yeah, when you are challenged, you always have to just go back to your why. Why are you doing what you're doing
Yeah.
right now? And it will recenter you to what's the most important things in life. Ito yung values mo. Diba? Sabi ni Rick
Yeah,
Warren,
yeah,
ito yung
totally agree.
what on earth am I here for?
Yes,
What
yes,
on
yes.
earth am I here for? Doon sa ating mga nanonood ngayon, if you are watching this live, how are you dealing with the pandemic right now? You
Mhm.
can share with us your thoughts dun sa comments, or if you are watching this on replay, type nyo lang dun sa comment box natin ngayon. How are you doing right now? Kumusta kayo sa pandemic? Are you able to how are you coping up with the challenges within the pandemic, and what are the lessons that you are currently learning throughout this pandemic? Kasi sabi nga sa atin, nabanggit ko kanina, sabi ni Rick Warren, you don't have to, and you should make use of, you don't waste your hurt. So if the whole pandemic is a season of hurt for all of us, season of challenges, for some of us this is a season of failures, you don't waste this failure, don't waste these challenges. You learn from this so that we can always make use of what God has given us through this challenging times. All right.
Yeah, and Kuya, to
So
add, to add to that, no, just very quickly, if you
sure.
look at history, world history, or even in the Bible, most of the lessons and the breakthroughs in humanity happen through crisis, during crisis and the pandemic. So
That's
I
true.
always I think and always tell to people that crises are breeding ground for great opportunities. So do not forget
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Napakaganda nun. Ang ganda nung idea na yun. Totoo yun. In fact, hindi natin alam kung anong mangyayari sa atin right after this pandemic. And I can guarantee you that although there will be negative things that will happen as a result of this pandemic, there will be a lot of new things. In fact, innovations. Katulad na lang, very simple na lang sa atin ngayon ha, parang alam natin, makuha natin kung ano ibig sabihin ni Josh dito. Ang GCash at ang PayMaya.
Yeah.
Di ba? Dati hindi natin pinapansin yung mga products na yan, di ba? From the
Yeah.
business standpoint, the catalyst of this products na sabi natin na inggit tayo sa China. Alam mo sa China, lahat na lang pati beggar doon, QR code doon ginagamit doon para magbigay ng maglalagay lang mga beggar ng QR code. Matagal na nating sinasabi to sa business sa mga business talks, no, how they have become successful in their cashless society in China. And then eventually, ngayon nangyari na to, pandemic. And of course, we don't want these things happening, but due to this pandemic, we're able to understand a lot of things about these innovations, no? Lahat tayo nag-adapt to what's going on around us. So, ngayon, mas madali ka na lang magpasa ng pera from one person to another. You are able to buy or purchase online goods through all this digital goods, digital money that we all have right now. So maganda ang naging kinalabasan, but again, we can make use of the challenges or we can just waste it out, no? So what Josh is saying is, don't waste this opportunity. There will be opportunities that this pandemic, this challenge that presents to us. So let's make use of these opportunities. Just look for opportunities, even if you are not a business person, if you are just someone who who is an employee. Make use of this opportunity to enhance your capabilities as a person. And we're going to go through that later on mamaya sa pag-uusapan pa din natin. One of my favorite thought na senior ni Josh dito sa post niya, sa Facebook post niya, yung about relationships. Sabi ni Josh, relationships are your treasured deposits.
Yeah.
Ang ganda, hindi nyo ba napansin yun na yung palang relationship is your treasured deposits?
Yeah.
Are there instances during this pandemic, just na nabanggit mo, parang naisip mo, thank God for these relationships that I had in the past. Thank God for these relationships. Were there any time in your life during the past year that you're able to think that through?
Yeah, definitely. Relationships are treasured deposits, and during the pandemic, you kind of like, oh, thank God for this relationship that you built way before, like maybe when you were still younger, or maybe you were still in high school or college, or when you were just starting your life, after school. I think that those relationships, Kuya, you can withdraw. You can withdraw the value during crisis. It's either it can be in a form of friends just being concerned about you not being able to go out to shop for your food, or people just sending you money. I don't know, money or food, or just calling you, making you feel good about the situation or things that are happening. So these are the things that you will realize the value of relationship. And particularly for me, I am so blessed with good relationships. People will probably notice that I'm very friendly, sociable, but I only keep few reliable relationships in my life. And I think for me, that is also a strategic way to look at relationship and how you want it to be nurtured around this kind of environment. So during the pandemic, one of the examples that I can give is that I have a mentor that would always check on me at least every month for the past 12 months. Okay, so this mentor, a business and life mentor, would always check on me and would ask me for a social distant breakfast and have a conversation about life and business every month. So that's kind of
paano nyo ginagawa yun during the pandemic? During the lockdown, particularly?
It's like it's more on the other end to the other end. Yeah. So, because during the pandemic, the business did not stop. Activities did not stop. So this is one of the examples that I can share. People investing in your life, in your career, and of course with my relationship with my family. I've been so busy for the past several years with my career path, and I never really had a chance to speak, on a regular basis with my siblings. But the pandemic is pushing you to do the things that you are not accustomed to do, like talking to your friends. So we actually have, like, me and my family, we form a chat group, and we would talk every morning, afternoon, and in the evening. just share a
Yeah.
meal. So these kind of relationships are the relationships that you always go back to and will pull some energy and strength from when you're going through this crisis and with crisis and difficulties. And for me personally, aside from that, one of the lessons or one of the things that I can share is your relationship with few reliable people. And I have to quote this few reliable people because
Yeah.
sometimes the world can also be crowded. When you look at for example, in social media, the way that you consume your conversation and the way that you invite conversation is can also be draining or challenging. So my strategy last year was really just to keep my conversation within reliable people, people that I
Mhm.
can trust, people that I can be vulnerable with, and those are the relations that kept me strong and kept me kumbaga on top of everything. But of course, Kuya, another thing is as an entrepreneur is relationship with your employees, and that is something that I totally learned last year because when you're in a crisis, you're also managing a company in crisis. People wanting to leave,
That's true. Mhm.
people are confused about the direction of the company, and especially when they see that the company are not making as much compared before. So you also have to make sure that your relationship with your employees are strong or strengthened, and that's the time when you invest more time talking to them and really cascading to them the vision and the value of what you are doing. But of course, second to the last is your relationship with yourself, which is very, very important. Now, for people who are hardworking, like us, a relationship to self is not a conversation that we usually have, sa sarili natin. But during the pandemic, it is something that I learned that is very important. What do I mean by relationship with yourself? You have to check on yourself. Ano ba yung mga ginagawa mo na hindi healthy? Because kuya, when you say that, okay, God will take care of me in this situation. It's one thing, no, to have to access that faith-based strength, but it's also another thing to actually realize that personally you have to do something about your situation in a practical way.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I did 2020 is more of sleeping early, waking up early, making sure that I eat the right
Ouch.
food, making sure that I do my exercise. And if I
Mhm.
feel a little bored, maybe I can plant maybe I can buy a plant that I can water in the morning. So these are the practical things that I feel individually we have to be very conscious. No, recognize your emotion, access your faith-based approach, and then also identify what are the things that I could actually do practically to cope with this situation and get out of this whatever negative feelings that I have. So and then lastly, of course, relationship with God, something that we always neglect. We put to the side. Very cliche, but lagi ting sinasabi na, oh, we love God, we have God, we are with God, but reality is that sometimes nasa aside natin. And so during this time,
That's true.
cliche din siya na nangyayari, pero this is also the time that we kind of like seek God more and
That's
understand
true.
more our relationship with Him. So in the past year, that is also something that I'm very happy and proud about because I was able to reconnect in an intensified way to my relationship with my Creator, having a real quiet time on a regular
Mhm.
basis in the morning. And actually, you've seen me doing also doing live as well in my Facebook page,
Yeah,
and
in the
that,
morning.
that
Mm.
opportunity as well to share to other people was, I think, really
That's
fantastic.
true.
So those are the kinds of relationship that will really help you. And iba-iba yung approach doon, that unique approach, but I think that those are very important to get through the process of coping with this
That's
crisis.
true. We normally say that life's a mess. Don't leave it alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Life's a
I
mess.
agree.
Don't leave it alone. And that's true. It has been evident sa atin lahat nung during the pandemic. It can be as small as having a quick chat with a very good friend online, kaya nauso ng mga Zoom calls and Google Meet calls, nauso na yan talaga. And to as small as a short conversation checking you out to really helping you out during the pandemic, no, kapag
Yeah.
may problema ka sa finances, may problema ka sa, di ba, may problema sa pagkain.
Yes,
And
that's
for
true.
some of us, we had this experience where we have our friends that needed help to be, I don't know, when he has to be brought to the hospital, for instance,
Mm.
when during the course of this whole pandemic, kailangan natin yan. And when I had a friend who needs to be attended to, no, sa ganyang kasi sitwasyon, ang unang-una ko na naisip palagi, si Josh Mahinay. Josh, tul-
Well,
tulong tayo. Tulungan tayo.
I think
And
that, I think the feeling is mutual because you've been always my constant help as well. I mean, all throughout this year. So yeah, that's the one example of having reliable few, really few, but reliable friends. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And relationships, as Josh said, are your treasured deposits. So wala tayong na deposito, wala tayong i-withdraw
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah,
So I like this for those of us, especially that are trying to live alone, and that's the reality. Some of us, we want to live alone. We don't want to be bothered. And then for some, it's just fine, no? Kung yun talaga ang yung personality, walang problema doon. Pero sabi nga ni Josh, kahit na yung isa, dalawa na we can have really deep relationship with, no, just continue having that. Make that prosper. Make that
Yes.
grow, no? So that eventually, you can withdraw, you can withdraw some of those, and then eventually also you can give out to
Yes, yes.
this particular relationship, di ba? Maganda yung isipin din natin na yon. A few more thoughts, no? Ang ganda nitong discussion natin, eh. A few more thoughts. Sabi ni Josh, crisis are opportunities are opportunities to do better. So, be better.
Yeah, yeah.
Crisis are opportunities to do better. So, be better. Ikaw, Josh, how does this pandemic make you a better person? Maybe a better boss or a better person as a whole or a better follower of Jesus because we are followers of Jesus. How does this pandemic make you become a better person?
Yeah. So I'd like to start by saying that is a concept that we all know. That crisis is an opportunity to make us better. And if you notice, I added be better because the word be better is actually a choice. No, all of us have the opportunity, pero not all of us will decide to be better. No, parang ganun. So for me personally, in a lot of ways, I can talk about my personal life in a lot of areas, physical, health, my relationship, my spirituality, as I mentioned earlier. Those are the things that I had the time to assess and had the time to kind of revisit what are the things that I did not do, that I should do. And all those things that you come up with are things that will be beneficial for you for the future. As an entrepreneur for the business, for example, since mabagal yung business at hindi siya ganun ka busy, so you had an opportunity to step back. Like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing? What can I do better? How do I serve my clients better? How do I
because
serve my people
there are
better?
times, Josh, sa to lang, as people who are so busy doing a lot of things, you
Yeah.
don't have time to do this. You don't have time
Yes.
to step back. You don't have time to look at the bigger picture.
Yes. Yeah. So
And you're right. This is the time to actually do that.
yeah, so a couple of things we did is improving your process, improving your system, and sometimes because you're busy, you don't have time to kind of parang explore opportunities as well. So, this is very. I think yung post ko na yon ay sobrang malaman because those are the things that I experienced during the entire year of 2020. In my organization, for example, we're able to revisit our offers, our service, our products, and how do we strategically, reach out to clients. And the business was slow, but it kind of prepared us to propel like straight up ahead when the Philippines, for example. So I think those are the things that you need to do. And I think, and the business perspective as well, it is about being change ready because not all organizations are change ready. You remember when it happened, parang lahat talaga stuck in what do I do now? So that provided that opportunity as well for us. Now, for my people, for example, and for the friends that I have, I always tell them that use this downtime, for example, to learn new things. Things right now are being taught online. So learn new things, upgrade yourself. di ba? Kung hindi ka
Dami
magaling
na.
dito, and you think
Available na yan
it's
lahat. Online.
yeah, available na lahat, you know. So go to online schools, even revisiting your life and career plans, because definitely the pandemic kind of challenged that. Kung meron kang plano dati na ito yung mga plano ko sa buhay, and then the pandemic came, and you might have to revisit your plans and say, oh, this is not going to work, this is the better way. And your financial goals is very important because it affected a lot of families, and
That's true.
our financial decisions could change also over the years. So those are the things that personally I'm able to do, and because I think we had the luxury of time to actually think about it. So
Lahat tayo naka-lockdown.
maraming time naka-lockdown. So kung wala ka, instead of parang nurturing those negative emotion, then but I think what I'd like to mention is also becoming intentional, because these things will not just fall into your lap and I'm going to do this. So
You gotta have to have a plan then,
Yes,
You
yes.
need to have a plan.
Intentional means as specific as writing those things in your notebook. Like I have a notebook that puno siya for the past year because I have to intentionally write those things so that meron kang clear of action, hindi ka lost. So, coping
That's
with
true.
the 2020 pandemic, and still right now we're going through it, is a mix of accessing your faith base strength, it's accessing your personal approach to it, and in a way that is really practical and actionable. The problem usually is that meron tayong, alam natin may problema, but we stop there. We don't move to the next step of actually assessing, identifying, and what can I do, and actually doing it. Because doing it is the hard part. So I think
That's
that's a
true.
challenge, but that's also the reality of in a lot of people's lives. And again, I have to mention that maybe my experience is different and your experience is different because we have different privileges. But to a lot of people out there who don't have the resources and the capability, they are having it hard this time than us. So I also like to mention that it's very important to be extra kind and compassionate and generous to other people out there.
Yeah, because we have different goals in life, we have different situations in life, but these are general principles. No? These are general principles that you can make use of, so that as you go through this whole pandemic thing, as you go through this whole challenges, you can reset your goals. You can, if it is something that you can rethink about your life, you can still do it, even if whatever your goal is in life, whatever your situation is. These are general principles. Very well said, Josh. And lastly, ito yung parang ating napakagandang conclusion na pwede nating isipin, maging takeaway natin during this whole conversation. Sabi ni Josh, if you feel it is hard enough, pause, then keep going. Do not quit.
Yeah. That's really true.
Ano muna tayo? Hinga muna tayo ng malalim, ha? Bago natin discuss, hinga muna ng malalim, and then let's read again. If you feel it is hard enough, because really, for some of us who are watching this right now, it's truly is hard. But you need to pause, then you keep going. Do not quit. I like what Craig Groeschel said this last week lang na sa kanyang message, one of my favorite pastors, sabi ni Craig, if you are tempted to quit, think why you started.
Yeah.
If you're tempted to quit, think why you started. Can you expound on this thought, Josh, itong sinabi mo na to sa amin?
Yeah. Before I expound that, I have to kind of like really just recognize the fact that a lot of people right now are having it very, very hard. And it's one thing to encourage them to move forward and not to quit, but it's also another thing if you look at the reality of their lives. And it could be, moving forward could probably be the hardest thing that they can do. So to like put into context, Kuya, I think that yung part na yan, when I posted that part, I was thinking about the young people out there who are suffering from mental illness. And then that was magnified by the crisis in the pandemic, because again, yun nga, ang daling sabihin sa mga kabataan lalo na pause and move forward, but reality is that a lot of people actually committed suicide. In part of Cebu, in Bohol, for example, a lot of people committed suicide because life is just very hard. The reality is that we are all drained by this pandemic, and it's all right. It's all right. but we need to confront our reality and win the fight, and take a pause, and it's fine. If you have to close a company, that's fine. Take a pause. If you have to take care of yourself, take a pause. If you have to start whatever you are starting right now, take a pause. No, but I think that, again, if you have those elements in you, the core, the foundation, you always have a springboard, di ba? Parang meron kang jump off point again when you're ready to move forward. So I think that that pause is more of like a consoling, encouraging word that I'd like to put out there, most especially for the young people, because we have a generation that is responding to challenges and sufferings in different way. We have a generation that is much more disconnected to their faith and to God. So you cannot just say, "Oh, go back to God and pray to God," because these people probably don't know much about the relationship with God. So I think that it's more of, for us as believers, we have to be aware that these things are happening, and we have a big job to do, to reach out to the younger generation, to be mentors to them, to be their shoulders and ears, and to tell them that it's fine. Your feelings are valid. It's fine. Take a pause, but we have to make sure that they will have that kind of like, ano ba, yung bang paninindigan that life can get hard, but quitting is not an option, because definitely quitting is not going to be an option for families, di ba? So I think I'm looking into more of like that, because I understand what the generation is going through, but at the same time, it's also coming from my perspective, because there were times in my life already, in my journey, na mayroon din mga times that you have to quit, di ba? You have to set aside priorities as of now and career goals. But okay lang yan. Minsan kailangan mo lang na magpahinga. Kailangan mo lang na matulog. Yung iba dyan, huwag kayong magbabad sa social media. You have to also be conscious about how you consume the information right now. Kasi di ba, kuya, the information can be toxic as well. If you read a post of a friend that is very toxic, or if your friends are messaging you with things that are toxic, that can affect you as well. So you have to be very careful as well on how you engage in social media and how you consume information. And before you reach out to other people, before you can protect the other people, you have to protect yourself. Yeah. So I think
you have to be well.
Yeah.
Before you make other people
so,
well.
Yeah. So I think kuya, to end, parang yun ang mahalaga, na yung ma-realize natin na it can be hard, but it's not the end. It should not be the end. There are better things that we can expect. And if you look at the faithfulness of God in your life, the same lang naman yung process. Is a different level of crisis and sufferings, but it's the same process. God has been faithful to us. He will be faithful to us right now and in the future. So
that's true. So what can you say, Josh, as a form of conclusion, what can you say to that person right now? Let's just speak to that one person right now. Yeah. If you are suffering right now, if you are someone who is undergoing through a lot of things in your mind, that you feel like things are not going well, if you feel like this pandemic has zipped out the life out of you, what can you tell to that person at this point, Josh?
Well, it's very hard to specifically like advise the person what to do, but what I can probably like sort of throw out there, something that this person can talk about, is again, yung sinasabi mo na do not do life alone. And I think that yun yung pinaka parang opening point, kuya. When you go through sufferings and crisis, and if you are open to that idea of not doing life alone, that could open, that can save you, that can open possibilities for you, that can enlighten you. Yun na idea, do not do it alone. And for us naman, or for the other people, I think it's more of also trying to be there for your friend or for your family or for your people. Because sometimes these people will not ask you like, hey, can you be here for me? Do you have a minute to listen to me? And it takes a little bit of sensitivity or your consciousness to be able to detect that. So it's a mix of two things. If you are in that endpoint, the negative, do not whatever, not do it alone. And if you're on the positive end, have the compassion and the kindness to be open to this kind of people. And I think
that's
somehow we cannot promise and say that life will get better anytime soon, but definitely God has a lot of promises in the Bible, and I think that's something that we can cling on, that things will get better in time. Not soon, but maybe in time. Yeah.
That's true. And even the Bible says, Jesus said that in this life you will have troubles. In this
Yeah.
life you have troubles. It's not, he didn't say in this life you may have troubles. He didn't say that. He
Mm.
said that in this life you will have troubles, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And I
Wow,
think
that's
that's
beautiful. Yeah.
that's our assurance that in the midst of all these troubles that all of us have, God is with us. Jesus is walking with us all throughout this whole thing that we're
Yeah.
undergoing through. And Josh is true. Josh is correct. God may use some of our friends, some of our relatives, to reach out to them if you're undergoing through difficult times right now. Don't hesitate to reach out to them and tell them what you're undergoing through at this point in your life. Josh, very much thank you for this
The pleasure is
wonderful
mine,
time that
Bea.
you have given us. And alam mo, tong ginagawa ko dito, ang ginagawa ko, uh, uh, sinasummarize ko to, chinachap-chap ko to for other contents para synthesize yung contents.
Yeah.
And ang dami kong assignment na gagawin nga, ang daming content nitong
Ang daming
pinag-usapan natin
quotable
ngayon.
quotes.
Ang daming quotable quotes. So, ang dami kong
It
i-clip.
it comes with age and
Ang dami
experience.
kong i-clip. True. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for joining us today, and for you guys who've been with us. And of course, for those of you who are going to watching this on replay, thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you, Josh, for the thoughts, for the wisdom that you've shared. And I guess this is not the hopefully this is not the last time that you'll be joining us. Kung mag-mention tayo ng iba, nandito pa si Eliza Santiago. She's watching from Navotas. I hope that you are blessed today. Si my relatives is here. Of course, si my wife Joy is also
Hi, Ate
here.
Joy.
Sabi niya, good to see you, Josh, and thank you for joining us today. Again, thank you guys for joining me and Josh this evening. And my hope, my prayer is that you will be and you are blessed by this discussion, this very candid discussion that we just had. Thank you guys for joining me tonight, and I hope to see you again next week for another 1 Point Saturday episode.
1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point with Arnold Gamboa.